What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. This is our first go live here in the Blue Collar Kings group. I know a lot of you have been kind of out there, like you joined the group and kind of waiting and wondering and watching, like what's going on here and what Matt's doing with this group. So I'm gonna start jumping on here every Wednesday at 11 o'clock, and I'm just gonna go live every week at 11, and we're gonna do open Q&A. So I'm starting this group and kind of starting my personal brand, the Blue Collar King, and the coaching group for a couple of reasons. For one, there's a whole boatload of bullshit coaches out there. There's a whole bunch of fake ass coaches that you guys have all seen. They're all advertising and trying to sell you their program about mindset and leadership and business tactics and be your life coach and all kinds of shit. And I've just been watching it for a long time. I got into kind of started my personal development journey around 2017, 2018. I started off in a CEO peer advisory group called Vistage, and it's a community where CEOs and business owners kind of sign up, and it's a local group. They have them across the nation, but there's local little chapters and groups, and I joined one out here in the Inland Empire. I'm from Corona, California, and started that probably about 2018. And that was really cool. I did that for a while. We would come together every month, me and the business owners, the other CEOs, and we show up every month, and you show up with your problems, with your challenges, and we would work together and issue process, work on each other's issues, share ideas, and strategize. And that was kind of like my first dip of my toe in the waters, if you will, into just like coaching and masterminds and working with other people. So it was kind of cool, and that's where the journey began. So I've been doing a lot of different stuff for a while. It's been about 5 years now since I've been getting coached myself, and I've been part of some different groups. The Arete Syndicate, working with Andy Frisella and Ed Milet. I've done some work with Sean Whalen and Lions Not Sheep. I did some direct one-on-one coaching with Sean Whalen. I hired him to work with me for about 6 months on certain things. And then I also have an executive coach that I've been working with that I met through Vistage, the group I told you about. His name's Nicky Nemiroff. I've been working with him since about 2018. And we have a call. We have a call every week, and we've been doing that for a long time. So another group that I'm currently part of is Apex Executives. I got into that about 3 years ago. That's ran by Ryan Stewman. If you don't know him, you can look him up on Instagram. He's also known as a Hardcore Closer. That's a mastermind in Texas, and I go there once a month. We meet up in Dallas, Texas, and kind of the same thing. I got out of the Vistage group. I did the Vistage thing for about a year, and that was really good. But the group I was in, I just felt like I needed some people that were kind of farther ahead in life and in business. There were some very successful people in there, don't get me wrong, but I wanted more exposure to a group that was kind of operating and playing at a higher level. So that's what got me on the journey to looking for something else, and it attracted me to Ed Milet, Andy Frisella, and the Arete Syndicate, and then working with Sean, and then moving on to Apex Executives. That's the group I'm a part of now. That I was talking about, that I go to every month in Texas. So I've been around the block for a bit here with this coaching gig for 5 or 6 years. I started my business, started the business in 2003, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that story today. But back to why I'm kind of wanted to start this community is I want to help people to actually get access to resources through me and others, and and maybe some of my experience and wisdom. I could, if I can't help you directly, I would like to be able to think that I could point you in the right direction, to where I could get you the answers and get help for you. But there's a lot of coaches out there, a lot of bullshit and a lot of confusion, and with Instagram and Facebook and marketing and now ChatGPT, there is just so much noise. It's so confusing, like which way to go. And if you need help, if you need a simple business system or tactics or help with sales or marketing, or you feel like you want a coach to up level your life or grow your business, I know what it's like, and I know it can be very confusing, and I all the noise and the fodder and the chaos has also created a lot of lack of trust for people, because I know, like, just me, I post certain things and people don't even know me or know my background or know what my credibility, and they're immediately talking shit. So there's a lot of haters out there, and it makes sense because there's just so much fakeness. So again, back to what I want to do is I would like to help people cut through that bullshit and give you guys some tools and understanding on, if you're looking for a coach, like what do you look for? Like, what's important? One of those things to look for is just look at their experiences. Like, what have they done with their life? Anybody can go out today and sign up for a life coaching course or a leadership course or a communication course, for $99 or $197, and then in 30 days you have a certificate, and you think you're a fucking coach, and you go rent a Lamborghini and you take a picture in front of a fucking Lamborghini and you spend a bunch of money on Facebook ads, and all of a sudden you're a fucking expert. That's unfortunately just not how it fucking works. I don't think anybody has the right or the authority to be a coach if you haven't been out there and been to battle. If you haven't, like, started something or built something and created something, if you haven't been to war, and if you haven't been to battle and have the battle scars, and for years and years in starting your own venture, whether it be a business or whatever it is, like, you really don't have the, in my opinion, and everyone's got an opinion, so we know that, they're like assholes, right? Everybody's got one. But my opinion is that you got no right trying to go out there and tell somebody how to get their life straight, their mindset straight, their head straight, their business dialed in, grow their business, up level their life, if you haven't done it. And by no means do I want to paint the picture that I've got it all figured out. I don't. I think the journey of life, I don't believe there's a black belt. I don't think you just get there and all of a sudden you're like, yay, I made it. I don't think it works like that. I think it's a pursuit. I think it's never ending. I'm certainly at a different level now today and everywhere in life than I was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and I love that journey. I'll continue to grow. I love to grow. I love to learn. I love teaching people. And I love coaching. I do a lot of coaching within the framework of my own business. I have a business, for those of you that don't know, it's called Evolution Mechanical. We're an 8-figure commercial service contracting business. So I've got some repetitions under my belt, and I've learned in 20 years. I started the business in June of 2003, and I learned, it's coming up on 20 years next month. I learned a little bit. I learn, and most people do, we learn through failure. At first, our ego, we don't really want to admit that, and everyone's afraid to fail. Most people actually don't commit to change or commit to growth, or they don't make a move for fear of being judged by somebody, or for fear of failure. And I learned early on that that holds you back, and you have to get out there, and you have to start making moves. And the only way we learn is through trials and tribulations. So you have to get out there and just try and do the work. So back to the story on coaching. It's my vision and my passion to give back. I want to give back to the community. I want to give back to the industry. I was born and raised a blue collar. My parents were blue collar workers. I started off in blue collar, started off in the trades. I came up in the trades, and I really love all types of a blue collar related service business. My particular niche that I've created a business in is commercial HVAC. That's heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and we also do commercial refrigeration. But what I've learned is applicable to not only the life lessons and tools I've learned, but the business tactics, strategies, systems, procedures are also applicable to any type of service business, whether you're HVAC, residential or commercial, or you're a plumber or window washing or janitorial service or construction. All the systems and tactics are the same, and they're very applicable to those types of businesses. So yeah, that's a little bit about what I'm doing here, and I'm looking forward to growing this group. It's very small right now, but I want people to jump in here, and eventually people will get comfortable, and I'll get more consistent with being on here, and I want to build a community of like-minded people that want to grow, that want to come here to grow and learn and contribute, and we can help each other out, and we'll just see where that takes us. The other thing that I see in the trades where I really think I can be of value, besides on the life lessons and leadership and business tactics and strategies, is in the industries and the trades. There's a big gap. There's a big gap between employees and owners, and I hear it and I see it. Employees believe that. Employees believe that the owners don't really care about them, and they're out to get them. And I think the owners and the managers, don't really have a lot of care or respect for the employees. And what I have built and continue to build and improve on in our own companies is, how do we bridge that gap? We have to get employees and leaders, employees and owners on the same page, and there's a lot of work to do there today. So one of the initiatives or things that I want to be doing as I give back with coaching and in this community is helping owners understand what employees want, and helping employees understand what owners want, and getting everyone on the same team, getting everyone on the same bus, fighting with an aligned front and with a common vision, and get everyone rowing the boat in the same direction, and helping to remove some of those wedges, those divides between the front lines employees and leaders. It's really important to get everyone on the same page and get rid of those resentments, those stories, those issues, those concerns. It's fear. I think owners are afraid of what employees might do wrong or not do, and then vice versa. The employees have a fear too. There's no trust. So bridging the gap is really about, how do we build trust and get everyone working together, where everyone's on the same page and everyone has each other's back. So I think that's important, and it's one of the things that I'll work on and doing with my initiatives and what I do to give back to the community is helping to bridge that gap. The other thing too is giving people access to resources. Like I said, there's just a lot of fake shit out there. With all the coaches and the programs and the marketing and the chat GPT, and today everyone's an expert. Everyone seems to have all the answers. You can basically look up the answers, online or in Google, or ask AI, how does this work, or how do I do that? But you don't know if it's real information or not. And the other thing too about growth, as humans, is we actually don't really grow by just getting information. Information doesn't really move the needle in terms of our personal behavior. It's not just there's some cliche sayings that go something like this, like knowledge is power, right? And I kind of disagree. I actually really disagree. Knowledge is not power, and knowledge, too much knowledge, can actually slow you down, especially in today's age where there's knowledge and information everywhere. And I did that for a while. I spent a couple of years where I became an information junkie being someone that loves to learn and being a researcher and loving to read and stuff like that, I myself got caught up in information addiction almost, if you will, where it was just like learning, and I wasn't applying. So I would go to seminars, I would read books, I'm at my mastermind. I just had all this information and journals and all, and watching videos and seeing these speakers, these celebrity speakers. Like, I went to the Tony Robbins event and seeing him talk, and you come back, oh, rah, 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 and you're ready to go, and you think you're ready, you can crush the world, and that shit fades very quickly because we're pulled right back to our baseline. Human beings are definitely creatures of habit. While we might want to grow or want to change, subconsciously, our bodies, like, we actually like to be where we're used to. And if where we're used to isn't that good, no matter what you learn at an event or a seminar or a tool or a tactic or watching a YouTube video, or there's people that I know, and they're like, oh yeah, I listen to Andy Frisella's podcast every fucking day on leadership, and I'm, Andy's changing the world, and I love what he's saying. But I look at their life, and they're not doing any of it. I'm like, so that's bitching. I know Andy Frisella personally, actually, and I'm like, when are you going to start doing the fucking work that he's talking about? So it's not knowledge is power. It's knowledge plus execution is power. And I don't think it's really power. I think it's results. So moving the needle to behavioral change, to getting a result. Results are the byproduct of behavior. So how do we change behavior to get a different result? We need practices. So yes, we need the tools. Yes, we need the knowledge. Yes, we need the information. But we need new practices. So we have to show up. Once we learn something, you have to write that shit down, what you learned, but not just write it down. You have to write down some measurable things. Like, what am I going to do different? What's going to change based on this information I learned? What is my new commitment? What are you going to write down in your journal? What are you going to write down in your calendar that you're going to start doing different? That's going to get your body, your mindset, your brain moving in the direction of change. For growth and for things to be different, you have to start practicing doing things that you're uncomfortable with. And that starts very small. You just start with small practices. You don't have to go out and do something crazy. I did some crazy stuff. I did 75 hard, which is an interesting program. I actually do recommend that everyone does it if you can, but some people have physical challenges and it doesn't make sense for them. There's these other warrior programs out there, and you see people online where they're being ran through like a hell week with this military style shit for 3 days or 4 days, and breaking you down and making you cry and full-blown physical failure. And while there is some beneficial change to that, I don't necessarily want to hate on it or judge it, but I am. It's not necessary. You don't have to go fucking kill yourself and stay up in the middle of the jungle for 4 days getting physically murdered by some ex-military dude or some dude on steroids that owns all these franchise gyms in the country to grow. That's not what's required. You can obtain growth through smaller repetitions, just like going to the gym, just like going to work out. Yeah, you can go to the gym and pump a bunch of steroids and work out 4 hours a day and get ripped quicker, or you can do it a little bit more organically and take your time and do it in baby steps, which is probably more comfortable and more palatable for most human beings out there. But it starts with just being able to accept this idea of, I have to change. I have to start practicing doing things new. And it's kind of like a domino effect. Once you step your toes in the water of doing things differently, and I'm talking something super small, just like start brushing your teeth every morning with your left hand. If you're a right-handed person, just practice for the next 30 days brushing your teeth with your left hand. Drive to work a different route. Change up your schedule and how you manage your day. Start getting your brain conditioned to change, because when your brain starts getting conditioned to change, it's going to become more adaptable to change. For growth and change to occur, we have to start getting the brain and the body used to this and getting more comfortable with it, because you're not going to be comfortable with it. There's a reason that people don't change, is because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel comfortable. Most people like the idea of change. They want a different result in their life. They want to lose weight. They want to be a better leader. They want to make more money. They want to have a better relationship with their spouse. They want to be a better father or husband. But you're not going to get there without getting used to practicing doing things different. You have to condition your body for change. That's kind of like, that's step one. And I learned that the hard way. It took me a while. Like I said, I went on this information journey for a while, and I just thought, like, man, I could learn more, and learning more and getting more information and going to more seminars and more masterminds and more books is gonna change my life. But guess what? I did that shit hardcore for like 2 years, and nothing really measurable changed. I had all this information, and I had 2 or 3 more bookcases full of books and shit that I have read, and I had lots of journals stacked up on the table, with tons of valuable lessons, golden nuggets from some of the most successful people on the planet, but I wasn't implementing them. There was no implementation. So it's important to understand that the journey of growth, it takes practice, and I think people also need to be more patient. Everyone wants change and they want the magic pill. And I think a lot of people waste a lot of time and a lot of energy, a lot of emotional energy, and maybe financial money on trying to search for the magic pill, and it just doesn't. There is no magic pill out there. Like, trust me, if there was a magic pill to life, to be successful in life, I would have found it, because I have literally kicked over every rock and every bit of every piece of information from every coach and person and influencer out there, all the way up to the likes of Tony Robbins. There's no magic pill, folks. I promise you. The magic pill is getting ready to do some work. And like I said earlier, you don't have to kill yourself, but you have to embrace the idea of growth and change. It's going to not feel good at times. They don't call it growing pains because it fucking feels good. It just doesn't. It doesn't feel good all the time. And I think people are scared of that. People are not conditioned, and they're not used to things that are uncomfortable. I feel like we've created a society and a culture where people are not used to being called out. They're not used to being reprimanded. So when it comes time for people to be coached or called out or lean into this idea of change, it doesn't feel good, and they don't like the way it feels or like the way it shows up. So they run because it doesn't feel good, and they're scared. And that's we can overcome that with just practice and trusting that when it doesn't feel good, that's good. That's where growth is occurring. Growth is happening when it doesn't feel good, regardless of what it is. If you're doing really hard, uncomfortable work with your spouse and your relationship, that's good. That's where growth. Wherever there's a little bit of discomfort and friction, right there, if you embrace it properly, right there, that's where growth is happening. So that's a little bit about, my vision and how I see the world, and kind of a couple tidbits on what I want to be talking about on here. And I look forward to working here in this group and building a community, like I said, of like-minded individuals and people that want to grow. I want to share my journey and share more information. So Alpheus asked, like, what what was the catalyst for my transformation? It's a really good question. I think it was a lot. Like, it was, for me, I'm a pretty hard-headed dude. I had a pretty big ego. Everyone has an ego, but I thought I had it figured out. But what I learned is that I didn't. So I think the catalytic moment for me, I don't know when it happened. You know, like I said, I've been on the journey of growth at a high level for 5 or 6 years. I don't know when the light went off. Maybe it was a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, probably through the work, the weekly work too, with my coach, Nikki, of accountability. Having a coach in my team, in my corner, to hold me accountable and call me out on my bullshit. I think catalytic moments happen through self-awareness. So I believe that when you can get to a place where change becomes more important than where you're at, being stuck, I think that's the breakthrough to self-awareness, and where humility starts to show up, and you realize, my way of thinking, my way of being is wrong. It's incorrect. And when you can step into that reality and look at the person in the mirror and go, so I've been living my life all these years, and I get a different job. I'm with a new person, or I do here, but these different problems keep showing up in different ways with me, but there always just seems to be a consistent pattern of something not working. You constantly find yourself in a complaint mode about someone else or something else. When you look back over time, you're going to see, and this is the big hairy pill that we all have to swallow. The common denominator in all these challenges or issues or problems, it's ourself. And that's when you have to wake up and you have to say, okay, what's more important for me now? What's more important? Me being right? My fucking ego, like my way? What's more important? My way or change? And when you come to the realization that we're on this planet for a short blip of time, and the time clock is ticking, this usually happens when people get older. You kind of go, dang, I'm not where I think I should be in life. And man, you know, time's running out, and I think people think that they're going to live forever. I think most people wake up and walk around and act like they're going to fucking live forever, and that's just not how it works. So I think through this self-awareness awakening, that's where the journey can begin. But until you step into the realization that my way of thinking and my way of being is no longer serving me, and probably more importantly, no longer serving those around you, your wife or your husband or your kids or your employer or your employees. Once you step into that awareness, that's what I believe where the journey begins. That's kind of like stepping into the dojo, and like training begins. Like, they give you your white belt, you put on the gi, and it's like, okay, training starts today. That's at least how it's happened for me, and I think that's probably on point for everyone out there. So good. Thank you for that question. Couple other things I want to go through. I got a list of questions here that I just want to get answered and get out there so people kind of know my story and know my journey. I might have talked about some of the stuff already, but so the first question is, what inspired me to pursue a career in my field of expertise, and what pushed me to build a business of my own? So I kind of talked about my story. My mom was a checker at a grocery store. My dad was a meat cutter. I grew up blue collar. I can remember being in the garage in my shitty diapers, 2 or 3, 4 years old. Excuse me, handing my dad wrenches out of the toolbox. He was out in the garage where he was building engines and working on cars. Born and raised blue collar. was always around mechanical stuff. My dad had off-road cars, and mom would work and cook and take care of the family. We had a house in Lakewood, California, and then in 1978 they bought a house in Cerritos. We had a nice little house in Cerritos, and they worked really, really hard. Um, they did not go to college. Neither one of my parents went to college. They were also both born and raised kind of blue collar, and that's just the family lineage and line that I came from. Everything that we did was just, work hard and live a good life. My mom did end up starting a little business, she had a little ice cream parlor, ice cream sandwich shop in Cerritos, California, and she had that for several years, and that didn't work out, and she closed that. Things weren't going all that well. Excuse me. Things weren't going all that well with my parents, and my dad eventually started a business too, and that didn't work out for him. Things kind of went awry. My parents got a divorce. My dad ended up passing away in '08. But anyways, long story short, back to my story, and more so along the lines of my career and how I got into the trades. It started off when I was about 14 or 15 years old. I got a job in Norwalk putting in car stereo systems and alarms in cars when I was very young. And then I got a job working on jet skis, so I became a jet ski mechanic. So right off the bat, when I was very young, I just started fixing things. I learned a lot about electronics at the car stereo shop with wiring and electricity and stuff like that. And then I got a job working on jet skis. I was a jet ski mechanic. And that's where kind of my mechanical profession started, if you will. And then that led me into, eventually, I was a server. I was a waiter for a little bit too. I worked at Claim Jumper. I worked at Black Angus. And then in 1997, I got offered a position in the trades by a very close family friend of ours named Bruce Lambatis. He owns a company called Certified Air Technologies. And I had left. I dropped out of high school when I was 17 years old. I didn't want to go to school anymore. I didn't want to live at home anymore. There was some chaos at home, and I just didn't want to be exposed to that. And I felt like I didn't need to go to school anymore, so I dropped out of school my senior year. I went off and worked different places for a few years, and then my dad kind of reeled me back in, got me off the streets, living on the streets and kind of place to place, and buddies' couches and different apartments, and kind of living a crazy, wild lifestyle that wasn't very healthy for a few years. And Dad reeled me back in and got me introduced to Bruce, the owner of Certified Air Technologies, and got me a job in commercial air conditioning. So I started that job in August of 1997. And part of the deal with that job was that I had to stop partying and being a dumbass, for one, obviously. And the other thing was that I had to go to Cypress College. Cypress College has a very, 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 very good HVAC and refrigeration training program. And it's a 2-year program. You do that for 2 years, Monday and Tuesday. You go to school full time. So it was quite the transition. A guy that had dropped out of high school, going off on the streets, you know what I mean? Literally doing whatever the hell I wanted for 4 or 5 years, to have to be put right back into like going to this trade school, full time. So it was pretty intense for me to be going from, like I said, partying and living what I thought was the good life, doing literally whatever the hell I wanted for 4 or 5 years, to moving back home and going to school hardcore. But it was literally one of the best things that probably could have ever happened to me, was getting invited to work at Bruce's company, and getting the opportunity from Bruce to get a job at his company and then go to school. It straightened me out. It gave me a pathway and kind of gave me some type of purpose and meaning and a good job and a way to move forward. So I did that. I did 2 years at Cypress College. I successfully completed that program. After I did 2 years, I did the 2 years at Cypress College while working concurrently at Bruce's company. I would go to school Monday, Tuesday, full time every week. And then I would work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then any overtime, service calls, weekend work, projects, or whatever, I was happy to take those, because I just wanted to work and learn and make money. So I was very fortunate, and I learned very quickly, because I was working while I was actually going to school learning the HVAC trades program. So it worked very well for me. After I completed the 2-year course, I then went into the union. We were a union shop, and in the union, you have to complete a 5-year apprenticeship program. It's a mandatory requirement as part of being a union employee, a union technician. It was a 5-year program. I was actually able to skip the first 2 years. I talked to the union, the training hall, and the training center, and Bruce kind of helped out too, and told them like, hey, look, Matt's already been at school for a couple of years. Look at it, he's got a certificate. He successfully completed the program. Can we test him and see if he could move forward a couple of years? I wanted to do that because I didn't want to go back through years 1 and 2 at the union when I had already completed 2 years at Cypress College in the HVAC training program. So they did. They said, you know, you can take the final exam for year 1, and if you pass it with an 85 or better, we'll let you go to year 2. So I did that, and then I said, heck, well, let me try to see if I can advance through year 2. And I talked him into letting me take the final exam for year 2, and I passed that, and I started my apprenticeship program as a 3rd-year apprentice. After I did year 3, I wanted to advance into year 5, and they said, well, if you can pass the year 4 final exam, we'll move you forward. So they did. So I ended up doing 2 years at Cypress College, and I got the 5-year apprenticeship program done in 2 years, and I worked at Bruce's company. Bruce had a few partners, and things didn't go the way I don't believe Bruce had intended, and they got into construction and had some financial troubles. And long story short, things just didn't work out at the company, and we got laid off, and things weren't going well. And I decided to just go off on my own for a bit. I had a couple little residential side jobs that I was doing. This was June of 2003, and I just decided, hey, I'm just going to take the summer. At the time, I was 28 years old. I lived on my own. I bought a house a couple years prior, a small little beater, kind of a shack house in Buena Park, a fixer-upper house. I had my best friend Kenny living with me, very low overhead. He was paying me some rent, and I just said, hey, whatever. It's June 2003. I'll just take the summer. I had a little bit of cash set aside. I think I had about $2,000 or $3,000 of cash set aside, which, you know, doesn't sound like a lot of money today, but when you're 28 years old and don't have any overhead, you can survive on that. I'd certainly survived on a hell of a lot less, so it was fine. Did a couple side jobs, and I was going to go back to work for Bruce or go back to work in the union someday. I never thought that I would actually end up really starting a business. It was just basically a summer side job for me. And one thing led to the next. I got more leads. I would go do one residential change out our system, and they would refer us. And my brother Scott, I have a brother Scott who's 6 years younger than me. Some of you may know him. We worked together for a few years, and when we first started, we just kept getting leads, and we didn't know anything about business. We were just out there fixing AC units and changing out AC units, and that led into the residential, kind of led into our first commercial account. So then we started doing commercial service, and then kind of fast tracking and speeding up through the story here. Got into doing commercial service, kind of kept doing a little bit of residential, eventually got into commercial construction, and just lots of ups and downs, rags to riches many times. We would do good, we would fail. It was showing my lack of understanding on how to actually run a business. I think a lot of tradespeople, they don't realize what it actually takes behind the scenes. You think, oh man, I'm a really good technician and I know how to fix air conditioners, or I know how to run electrical and I'm a good plumber or whatever. But what I learned is that really doesn't mean shit in terms of actually running a business and knowing how to run a business. Fixing the stuff is the easy part. It's all the stuff happening behind the scenes that trades workers have no clue, and I had no clue, and I found out the hard way what it looks like to run a business. There's a lot of stuff going on. You need to understand how to read financial reports. You have to be able to understand accounting and get accounting systems and invoices and billing and setting up credit lines with vendors and suppliers. And then as you grow, then you move into how am I going to buy trucks? You have to hire employees. So you need to know about recruiting and how do you attract decent talent to work with you when you're a little poop butt mom and pop shop working out of your house or a little tiny shop. So then, and then scaling and sales and marketing and systems and tactics and core values and analytics and vision mapping and strategy and planning, and then leadership and accountability, and then and then client retention, quality assurance, and then employee retention. So there's just so much to learn, and I found that out the hard way. So it took me well, here we are 20 years later. I have a degree from the School of Hard Knocks. That's how I learned. I just did a lot of learning and reading, like I told you guys earlier, and like I said earlier, and I just went to battle. One thing I did right, while I did tons and tons and tons of things wrong, one thing that I can say I did right is I just never gave up. I just don't quit. I've been hurt, I've been put down, I've lost a bunch of money, I've been, rags to riches, close to bankruptcy a few times, losing people, cultural turnovers. I mean, I've done it all. But the one thing I did right was I never gave up. So that's kind of the story of how we've grown. What I learned eventually about business, I read a really good book, probably about 2017, 2018. The first 10, 12 years in the business was just craziness. It was survival mode. It was just like saying yes to any kind of work that would come my way, whether it be residential or commercial or construction or service or replacement. And I just kept going. And when I read this book, Good to Great by Jim Collins, I kind of had an epiphany, if you will, and they call it the hedgehog concept in the book. And what the hedgehog concept talks about is, to be successful in business, you have to identify three things. One of those things is, what do you love? Like, what are you passionate about? And what are you good at? Like, what is your company really good at? And then what makes you the most amount of money? I mean, fundamentally speaking, when you state it like that, it's like, okay, duh, like that's pretty obvious, but getting the owner or the leader of a company to really embrace that and then make the changes in the organization is actually hard to do. So it's a simple concept, but actually executing it is tough because you're dealing with humans. And what that meant for Evolution Mechanical and for me as a leader, having a company that I had started, and we were doing so much, doing all these different things: residential install, residential service, commercial change outs, and then commercial new construction, working for general contractors, and doing all this work, is that I came to the realization that I had to do a reboot. I had to reset the company. I had to completely redesign and restructure the company, and that meant things were going to have to change, and I was going to have to close down some divisions. At the time, I had also been a co-founder in a refrigeration company. I was one of the founding partners of a startup company called Ecotech Refrigeration. So not only was I running all these different divisions with my core business, Evolution Mechanical, but I was tied up in starting this other business called Ecotech Refrigeration, which is still around today, and I still know the owners, and we're good friends. But through the restructuring and getting hyper focused on my business and myself, I had to shut down the residential division, and I did that. And I had to close down the construction, and I left the partnership. I walked away from the other business, from Ecotech Refrigeration, and I made a decision to get hyper focused on Evolution Mechanical's niche, our hedgehog concept, and what that was it was commercial service. So we went all in on that, and at the last 3.5 years, it's really been one of the best moves I've ever made in business, was getting rid of all the things that were just noisy and chaotic, and simplifying things and getting hyper focused on what work is the organization good at, what do we love doing as an organization, like what are we passionate about, and what makes us the most amount of money. So that's what we did, and that's kind of the story. So I tell people all the time, and they ask me, how did you get here? How did you start the business? It's a side job. It was just a side job, not by design, but it was a side job by default. I was just kind of put there, and it just happened. And here I am, kind of crazy to think it doesn't even seem like it's been 20 years. Well, in some aspects it does. because it's been a lot of work and a lot of hell and pain, and especially hell and pain for my wife, Heather, bless her heart. But it's crazy to think that next month, June of 2023, that marks 20 years that I've been on this journey of running my summer side job. So now the summer side job is a very successful HVAC business, or a commercial business. We have about 40 employees. We're an 8-figure business, and I'm loving it. We're having a great time doing it. We're growing. We're a growth firm, and that's kind of how it all unraveled. I think 3 of my proudest accomplishments in my career, that's the next question here that I'm going through, or personal life. I think the most proud accomplishment I have, like I said, in myself, is just having some kind of faith in myself. I don't know what it was, but I just always believed, even though I didn't know how to do really any fucking thing right for a long time, I just always believed there was just something in me that I believed I could do it. And I think faith and courage and grit really is, and we talk about, secret pills to life, to business. If I could give anybody anything, I would say that's the secret sauce. The secret sauce to life is having grit and having faith that you can do it. And you're gonna get knocked down. You're gonna get knocked out. You're gonna get hurt. You're gonna want to quit. You're gonna want to tap. You're gonna want to throw in the towel. You're gonna want to file bankruptcy. You're gonna want to get a divorce. You're gonna want to fill in the blank. But the best thing that I've ever did is I just never gave up on anything, and that's one of the things that I'm most proud of. I'm also very proud of. I'm also proud of being able to create a community and a business in which we help humans. We don't just do air conditioning. I really love serving humans that want to grow. I love helping humans that are all about helping themselves, and I'm kind of known in the industry of kind of a hard ass or an asshole, and it's, I don't mean it to be that way. It's received that way, but I just run a tight ship. Like I'm put on this planet to grow. I'm put on this planet to build, and I want to surround myself with like-minded individuals. Like I just don't have time or the space in my life, in my coaching business, or in my company to really work with people that are still stuck in a victim mindset, that are constantly complaining and don't want to face the truth and don't want to grow and be held accountable. So with that said, I love that community, creating a community of building and growing humans. I love that. That's something that I really like doing. In my personal life, I'm really proud of myself, and what I really love learning more is my health and fitness. I've struggled with weight. I struggle with weight and getting weight and working out and stuff dialed in, and that's one of the things that I'm on lately is kind of overcoming the weakness and those challenges with regards to working out. I go to the gym 5 days a week now, and I really enjoy doing that. So that's working out well for me, and we'll talk about more about that stuff in here too. What motivates me with anything is like seeing the destination. I like to see the goals in front of me. I like to grow. I like to win. I'm a winner. I'm a grower. I'm a builder. I'm a creator. I'm a visionary. I absolutely love creating the vision. I love creating the map. I love finding the people that want to go on the mission with me, want to build, want to grow and create. And I love winning. I love celebrating victories. So one of the things I do in life, everywhere in my life, is I have a roadmap. I have a plan. I know what I'm doing every week, every month. Everything's mapped out. Everything's planned out. I know where the benchmarks are. I know the markers, and I do everything I can to hit those. Does it always work out in the way I want? Absolutely not. It's not about having the perfect plan. It's about getting out there. It's about just having a plan and getting out there and doing the work, and then calibrating along the way. Like everyone gets caught up in, I need the perfect plan, so therefore you don't execute. And then And then you get worried about, oh, it didn't go my way. It's not about having the perfect plan and producing the perfect results. It's just about getting out there and producing and learning along the way and being proud of yourself and grateful for things that you are accomplishing. All right. So what's a piece of advice for people who want to quit their 9-to-5 job and start a business? Here's what I recommend for that. If you work for somebody, the first thing you need to do is you need to go all in on working for that company. You need to be ethical. You need to deliver. You need to add value. You need to provide value and do your job. Like if I could go back in time, starting my business and trying to learn how to run a business on my own, with my own money, with my own time, I wouldn't have done that. I would have spent more time working for a company, learning how to run a business, learning about all the aspects of a business that I didn't know about while being safely employed for another company and getting a consistent paycheck. So if you think you want to start a business, that's beautiful. I love that. And I think everyone should do it and go after that if those are your aspirations, but take your time. Don't get in a hurry and jump ship and go off on your own because you know how to fix an air conditioning unit. You don't know shit about how to run a business, and you're probably going to get yourself in trouble. You're going to put yourself and your finances and your family in distress very quickly because there's a lot to learn about business. So take your time and learn more about business before you start a business. Knowing how to be an electrician or a plumber or a construction worker doesn't mean shit about running a business. So trust me with that one.